Apologies for my voice. I got allergies. Disney last week and Disney again. Who am I, Shafrillis? No, that's a different guy, but if you're looking for his channel, this is it. I am him, and please don't leave. Inside Out 2 is a new Pixar movie, the sequel to the OG, released in 2015. I thought it was 2017. It's been a damn long time. The build-up to this movie saw a lot of backlash that I think was really rooted in distaste for new Disney material, and I can understand that, but you know what? I think this is their win. A summer release that panders to little kids who can't go on their own, and is a sequel to an incredibly well-received personal story that parents know kids can relate to, they probably won't even notice that there's a different director. Plus, the movie's actually pretty good. So, with word-of-mouth traveling, new rising stars attached, and movie theaters absolutely shoving Inside Out 2 into every spot in their buildings, it should be a hit. Speaking of that last one, I've got a funny story. So, I bought my ticket for the movie about 10 minutes before the start time, but there was no rush because I was at Regal. If you're not familiar, Regal is a theater chain that hates you and everything you stand for, so they wait 20 to 30 minutes before actually starting the movie, and I'm aware of that. I'm also aware that they charge $6 for a little pack of M&Ms, so I headed out to grab a snack from a little shop that sells tobacco and scratch tickets, and that place was great, 10 out of 10. I returned, walked into my theater, and the movie was already going. It was 6 minutes after start time, so I was rightfully confused, but assuming I was just a little late, I sat down and tried to piece together what I missed. I felt a little lost though, since everything really was quite dramatic, but since I assumed I was watching the start, that stuff breezed right past me. Admittedly, it was hard for me to ignore Pouchy, but I did. Then the credits rolled and I realized I was watching the end of the movie. So I raced out into the hallway and saw that the same movie was playing in the theater across at the actual right start time. It had now been 10 minutes or so I ran in, took my seat, and the movie had still, you guessed it, not started. Fuck you, Regal, somehow this is your fault. So yeah, unfortunately I did see the end of the movie before the rest, but it's Pixar. I could have figured out how things were going to go down. It's not like I was watching M. Night Shyamalan. A little sad, but mostly funny, so let's move on to the spoiler section. Inside Out 2 concerns Riley's transition from middle school into high school, and it takes place over the course of like one weekend, which is a little strange. We get introduced to new emotions, anxiety, envy, embarrassment, and ennui. It's a little weird to assume that these didn't exist before, especially since we see Disgust try to be Joy in the first movie, and she basically ends up doing exactly what ennui is, which is sarcasm, but I'm not going to try to poke holes in this universe. I do think the cast is a little crowded, since only anxiety is really important, but it's good that they absolutely nail her. Maya Hawke walked right into this movie and owned it. Her voice is so dynamic and silly to match her character design. She slots into the villain role pretty clearly, which I didn't really expect. Sure, anxiety is a personal hell, but I just thought that the movie would deal with it like sadness in the first movie and teach us the purpose of it. And that does happen. It's not like they kill her at the end of the movie, but she is very directly the antagonist towards joy and the other emotions. I like how not all of her decisions are immediately bad for Riley, but they pull her further away from herself, just like Joy tries to say. At the end, anxiety predictably causes Riley to have an anxiety attack, but even she doesn't view it as good because it completely throws her out of whack. She glitches out and causes this huge cloud, and it makes for a great finale. The fight-or-flight system is not always controlled, it can cause panic, but she ultimately has good intentions. Pixar could have flubbed this character, but they didn't. The rest of the cast? Sadness is noticeably kinda lame compared to the original. She separates from the rest of the crew, and at first it seems like a cool subplot, but then they just give it an abrupt end, and she becomes very idle for the rest of the movie. The sadness-joy relationship that was so loved in the first movie gets little to no attention. The other new emotions, envy, embarrassment, and ennui, don't hit like anxiety. Ayo Edebiri is fun as envy, but they don't go any further than their most basic traits usually, and even embarrassment's draw towards sadness doesn't have enough time to grow. Ennui straight up just doesn't do anything. And our other three, anger, disgust, and fear, aren't the greatest either. Anger gets a little development, but yet again it's not enough. They're still just the other three. Luckily, Joy is just as sweet, likable, and engaging as ever. Amy Poehler makes for one of Pixar's strongest protagonists that continues to shine as one of the most enjoyable parts of her movies. If they make any more of these, rest assured Joy will stay positive. Sadly though, that's not my only complaint. My biggest one that is at the core of why this is a drop-off from the first is that this movie feels incredibly brief. It all just kind of flies by. And I was confused because I never felt that way about the first movie. It must have been much longer. Little did I know the first movie is actually shorter, by 1 minute, but that counts for something. But, okay, Maybe I just remember it wrong. It's been years since I've seen it. Well, I watched it again because I have a lot of free time, and nope, I don't have that issue with the first movie. So why is it? Well, I think it comes down to a few details. First of all, the movie starts with a recap, which always feels really stale. Megamind 2 did it, and you do not want to be Megamind 2. We get caught up on Riley's new friends even though they could just meet them during the scene and have the explanation then. All the new interests Riley has developed get explained to us, and this takes time out of our already very short length. Additionally, it's just the feeling of a sequel not doing enough new. We get new characters, new settings, and all that, but it's a fairly similar tone and a fairly similar story. Riley gets stressed out because some weird shit happens to her brain, and then look at that, she's fine. Honestly, the first movie had higher stakes than this. When you're accustomed to what's going on already, it feels less important and memorable. I doubt this movie will stick in kids' minds like the first, and I think this is why. But let's return to the positives, because this is still a good movie. Some returning pros include the music, which might not be as jaw-dropping and mesmerizing as the wonderful score from the original, but it still sets the tone very well. There's also the animation, including various cute character designs and even branching out into multiple different styles. It feels much more adventurous than usual. Really, I think this movie brings creativity back to Disney. Something like Lance Blade, a character whose name I can't say and is also meant to be from a forgotten console game, glitching into the wall and accurately trying to recode his AI by jumping and turning is such an unnecessary visual gag that would only be done by someone who genuinely thought it was funny enough to put it in. I've said it in previous videos, and it might be a little cheesy, but we are discussing a Pixar movie about emotions. It needs heart. The creators of Inside Out 2 cared enough to put their hearts into the movie, which is something recent Disney products are lacking, so I'm actually going to hope that this movie does do well, as I believe it will, even if Disney are evil corporate overlords, because I'd like to see a pattern develop of their quality matching their revenue. Or maybe that won't happen. I mean, there are factors betting against it. Like, why is this movie costing $200 million again? Have you not learned? That means you're banking on the movie making more than $500 mil, and sure, it might, but with Disney's recent track record, this could go really bad. Additionally, there's the Disney Plus problem. Parents who think that their kids might like this can just wait 2 months and there it is. Disney really has screwed themselves, and it seems like they somehow still don't understand that. Well, it's not like they're dying anytime soon. They charge hundreds and hundreds of bucks for a family to go to Disneyland, and we're approaching the summer. They kinda own everything. Deadpool 3 could bomb along with this, and they'd rake in cash from other markets. An audio service? Sure, we could do that. Buy out CNN? Sure, that'll probably get us money. Disney really could do anything still. They could stop making movies and survive for decades on their wealth. And that's not a scary thought. That's not a scary thought. It's not. Movie gets a 7 out of 10. Bye now.